Jenny said, guess what? We're going to have dinner with BenaBarbara tonight. And she's actually going to kill a chicken. And this was a big deal because they don't kill their chickens. Their chickens are for eggs. And maybe when they stop laying eggs at 4 or 5 years old, yeah, they might eat them. But most people don't have a chicken. BenaBarbara's husband was a doctor. He died of AIDS, and a lot of doctors die of AIDS. A lot of people have AIDS because, do I need to explain the clinics? Jenny used to say, Mom, I'd rather, if I get sick, I'd rather lay on the dirt floor of my hut and hope I get better in 3 days than to go to a clinic. Because a clinic, no sterilization, they reuse shot needles, they have no rubber gloves, they have, I mean, is it surprising that AIDS is spreading? No, it's not surprising if you know unsanitary conditions. So BenaBarbara's a single mom. She had Betty. She has an older son, and then she has 2 younger children. So at her home, the reason I tell you this is because I kind of got different women mixed up because I was introduced to all the village women, and all the village women wanted to come and meet the Americans. And when I got to her house, I kind of didn't make the connection that she was Betty's mother. But we sat in her little hut, and we were sitting on the floor waiting for the unveiling of the bowls. And we were all excited because we're spoiled Americans, and we're thinking, we're going to have chicken. This is going to be good. We haven't had meat for, I don't know, 6 days. And we pick up a bowl, and we start eating, and the bowl is full of pieces of chicken bones. And we look over, and BenaBarbara's just chewing on the bones, chewing them down, and Jenny's chewing them down, and she's looking at us, and we're hesitating, and she goes, have you seen the chickens outside? They don't have any meat on them. They're picking grass. They're the skinniest chickens you'll ever see. So if you're expecting meat, everybody here eats the whole chicken, the bones and all. So we're trying to be polite, and we're trying to eat our chicken bones. And BenaBarbara kind of nudges me, and she doesn't speak English, and I, of course, don't speak Bemba. She nudges me, and she smiles, and she grabs my hand, and she holds my hand, and I hold her hand, and she kind of scoots over, and she had this piece of material hanging down, and she pulled the material back, and she handed me a little, sort of like a shoebox, just a little wooden, no, it wasn't even wooden, it was a little cardboard box. And she hands me the box, and she's got a big smile, and I can tell she wants me to open the box. So I open the box, and inside are all of the pictures of Betty that what Jenny would do is she would have her camera, and she would take a roll of film, she would send it to us, we would develop the film for her, we would send the pictures back because she said the village people have never had any photographs of their children. And she was just beaming when she handed me the box. And I'm looking, and I know that's Betty, but I had totally forgot that she had passed away. And so I was looking, and I smile, and I say, oh, Jenny, tell her that Betty's beautiful, and we were so excited to get letters about little Betty, and I know she's happy with Jesus, and I mean, what do you say, you know? And then she goes to the very bottom of the box, and there's these old black and white photographs of her husband, and she was still just beaming, you know, sharing this box with me. And I just felt like we had a special bond. But back to, we have just enough time to meet Mr. Kapembwa at Mpika. We go, everybody's all around, the village people are all around. They want to see the car start because they haven't ever seen a car, and they were all so excited to see the car start. All we had done is pulled up, turned it off, and stopped for the week. So we go to start the car. We're all in it. Our luggage is in it. Everybody's ready to go. We've got 4 hours to meet Mr. Kapembwa. The car won't start. The car will not start. You are not going to have... What do? You are in the middle of nowhere. Luckily, my nephew, he's very mechanical. He says, I think there's one thing we can try. This is a diesel car. What we can do is we can get some coals, and we can put some coals under the engine. And if we can get the coals to warm up the engine enough, because it's been so rainy and so humid, I think it's just wet and cold. So we go, the village people, they get their coals together, they put coals underneath the car. We wait 20 minutes and we try again because we didn't want to have a dead battery. We couldn't just keep on starting it because dead battery would have been the worst. Coincidence or not, the car started and we couldn't turn it off though. He said the one thing you cannot do, we have to go all the way to Lusaka. We cannot stop in Mpika. If we want to make our plane tomorrow, we have to get to Lusaka by morning. I was so disappointed because that meant we couldn't meet Mr. Kapembwa. And he's the whole reason I'm going to start, doing and helping and this is what we got to do. So we waved goodbye and we're sad and I'm sad and I don't talk probably the whole way. We get back to cha-cha-cha. And as I was sitting there, a man comes to the door and says, Madam Rogers? Madam Rogers? Yes, here. Ah, you have a visitor. I have a visitor? In came Mr. Kapembwa. I was so excited, and he said, well, when you weren't in Mpika, and we waited, we thought, well, I don't know, maybe something happened. Maybe they had to go to Lusaka. Can you imagine the disconnect here? And can you imagine that some kind of divine intervention had to happen here? Because he could have waited in Mpika too long, because it takes 16 or 20 hours at least to get to Lusaka. If he didn't decide to leave Mpika and not wait for us for another day, he can't go to Jenny's village because that's 4 or 5 hours away. It was all about timing and difficulties and roads, and so he says, I don't know, I just felt like let's just drive to Lusaka. And my driver and the people with me said, we can't drive to Lusaka. They had never driven to Lusaka. What you also need to understand is that people in Zambia, if you live in the northern province, you have never even been to the southern province. You live in your own little world in the northern province, and Mr. Kapembwa is the principal of the Kasama Teachers College. He has it better than any other person in Kasama. I know, I've been to his house. I'm saying, even his drivers, even his team, that was taking a huge chance. But he drove to Lusaka. He said when he got to Lusaka, he started to call. You did have payphones at that time. And he started to call guest houses. He also called the Peace Corps office and said, well, where do your Peace Corps workers stay when they go to Lusaka? So they rattled off a few that usually the Peace Corps workers stay at. One of them was Cha-Cha-Cha's. So he called Cha-Cha-Cha's and said, do you have 8 Americans staying with you? And they said yes. So he said, I found you. We went outside, we sat at a table, and I said, how much money is your college? This much. Well, I've raised this much money. I'm not going to keep any of the money I raise. This is how it's going to work. We formed the Zambia Scholarship Fund at that table at Cha-Cha-Cha's. And he said, I will send you pictures of 10 students. Let's start with 10. I said, let's start with 10. If you send me pictures, then I will be able to take the pictures and show people these people are becoming teachers. This is a teacher's college. Let's start with 10. So when I got back home, I waited for my 10 students to arrive in the mail. 2 months. Came a big envelope from Zambia, and I had my first 10 students. I laid them out on my living room floor, and my husband said, Peggy, you have to be happy if all you ever help are these 10 students. And I said, I will.